Hello and welcome to National Focus. I am Julian Morris. In the headlines, Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit says it's time to lift an unjust U.S. embargo against Cuba. Minister for Tourism highlights the need for training and improved quality of service in the hospitality industry as Dominica observes Tourism Awareness Month. And the Bureau of Standards conducts public awareness drive on labeling standards and verification scales. The details of the headline stories and more when we return.
This is CARICOM Secretary General Erwin LaRocque. I took the jab, the COVID-19 vaccine. I'm encouraging you, my brothers and sisters, to join me. Take the jab and observe the protocols. We're saving lives and jobs.
Raise your voices high.
Welcome back. Discussion on the long-standing U.S. embargo against Cuba among the highlights of the Honorable Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit's recent visit to the Republic of Cuba. The Honorable Prime Minister says the call from Dominica and other CARICOM leaders for the lifting of the embargo against Cuba is a principled position and not a position against the United States.
Our position on calling on the United States to remove the embargo on Cuba is not an anti-America position. And that's the confusion people have. It's not an anti-America position. Clearly, the entire world, as a matter of fact, at the United Nations consistently, for the last 10 or so years, only 2 countries have voted against the removal of the embargo against Cuba. That is the United States and Israel. So the entire world, and if you do a poll in the United States of America, you'll find that the majority of American citizens will tell you that this embargo should be removed.
Prime Minister Skerrit views the U.S. embargo as unreasonable and unmerited, considering Cuba's positive impact on the world.
It's an issue of injustice and the need for the Cuban people to really be afforded the opportunity to be part of the world system. Because, you know, everything goes for the US dollar, the SWIFT code and all these things. And to be part of the mainstream economic system. And if you look at what Cuba has been able to do under the embargo, in terms of its in areas of science, and especially health sciences, the deployment of people throughout the world, especially in disaster times. A lot of young people do not know Cuba played a huge role in the apartheid period in supporting Nelson Mandela and the ANC. Cuba helped in Angola to independence. Cuba helped in what was called Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe. You know, and all of the African states benefited from Cuba's contribution to their independence and their fight for self-determination. And here in the Caribbean, every single country, if you were to remove Cuban-trained doctors and Cuban doctors from the health system of every Caribbean country, with no exception, the health systems will collapse.
Government recognizes a number of actions deemed necessary to develop the tourism industry. Minister for Tourism, International Transport and Maritime Initiatives, Honorable Denise Charles, spoke to some of these actions during her 2022 Tourism Awareness Month address. Tourism Awareness Month is observed during the month of May annually to increase awareness of the tourism and hospitality industry's economic, cultural, and social contribution to the Nature Isle. The Ministry of Tourism saw it fitting to highlight these development plans in order to take full advantage of the environment. One of the actions will include the need for training. Minister Charles believes there is need for training in all areas of the hospitality industry.
DDA has led the charge in providing our service providers with critical technical and customer service training. Now that we are coming out of the pandemic, we will refocus to more relevant training in order to improve the skill set of all persons in the industry to the 5-star standard which match our evolving accommodations and are in line with a world-class tourism destination. For example, the ministry intends to facilitate a mixology and bartending class where staff of certified properties will receive NVQ certification.
Government has also seen the need for a hospitality training institute. A 5-star infrastructure is in the works to facilitate this venture. However, the tourism minister reiterates the importance of matching the level of service to that of the infrastructure.
Training must go beyond the short-term classes to one where we can augment the education and training process by providing a location and curriculum for new and experienced practitioners to receive practical, hands-on training at an official hospitality training institute. We have already taken steps to look into options as to how such an institute can be established in Dominica. We are reviewing best practices in the region and also will be taking steps at the OECS level as I assume the chairmanship of the OECS Council of Tourism Ministers later this month.
Focus will also be placed on stakeholder support and national beautification campaigns to include village competitions.
The ministry stands ready to support these initiatives, as we have started in Champaign and the Roseau Valley. But ultimately, the maintenance and the upkeep must be community-driven. As more communities come on board, along with the Ministry of Environment, we intend to spearhead a beautification competition among communities as we highlight those which showcase the greatest skill and creativity. A key pillar of growth within tourism is events and entertainment. With the successful hosting of Jazz and Creole, this pillar has officially been launched as we showcase our culture and heritage and entertain visitors, thus contributing to a great experience on island. We are already planning a series of community, culinary, and national festivals which aim to boost economic activity and showcase Dominica as a destination for the best and most unique festivals.
The Ministry of Tourism continues to make strides to improve the resiliency of tourism in Dominica. The Inspection and Metrology Unit of the Dominica Bureau of Standards is hosting a public awareness drive this week. The drive is geared at educating the owners and staff of small shops in Dominica on the importance of labeling standards of prepackaged goods and prepackaged foods, as well as the verification scales. Mr. Jomari Leblanc is the project coordinator of the Metrology Unit at the Dominica Bureau of Standards.
We are currently on a public awareness drive, the Metrology Unit, alongside with the Inspection Unit, the Dominica Bureau of Standards. So we are going island-wide, across the island, to the small shops, giving information on the importance of labeling standards for prepackaged goods and prepackaged foods, and also the importance of verifications of skills. Just to tell them the importance and why they need to do it, and also just to add the information about the labeling standards as well.
The drive began on Monday, May 10, in the Marigot area. Mr. Leblanc says the owners of the supermarkets were very receptive, and this shows that this is a great initiative.
Yesterday we started Monday, May 9th. We were in the vicinity of Marigot and environs. What I can say, I just want to say a big shout out to the people, the shop owners in the Marigot vicinity. They're really receptive to us because the information that we brought to them, some of them were really welcoming to it, especially the labeling standards and also the verifications of skills, because some of them expressed that it was a little bit tedious for them to leave their shops in Marigot to bring it down to the office. So they were really welcoming that we reached out to them and we came to their community to do the verification for them.
The project coordinator says at the end of the drive, the main goal of the Dominica Bureau of Standards is to ensure that the shopkeepers are better informed of the standards they must keep.
At the end of the drive, our main goal is just to have the shopkeepers more informed about the labeling standards and also to have as many of their weighing devices verified, because that is very important, because we know as a shopkeeper they're buying their goods in bulk. For instance, their sugar, their milk, their flour. So we always want them to use a device that is working accurately, so that wouldn't be affecting their financial aspect of their business, because as we know, dollars and cents is very important, especially in a time like now. So we just want to bring the importance and make sure that they're well sensitized and have the skills verified as well.
This drive will also be beneficial to the consumers.
As you know, it's a trade-off, so it's a balance. So we want to make sure everything is a level playing field. So whatever the consumers, I myself am a consumer, you're a consumer. So when we go to the shop and we ask for a pound, we want to make sure that they are in fact receiving a pound, that they're not receiving under a pound, because as I said, dollars and cents is very important right now. So we want to make sure everybody receives what they're asking for and what they're putting out there. So the shopkeepers, when they put out a pound, it's a pound. When the consumers go to the shop and they ask for a pound, they're receiving a pound.
You are watching National Focus. More when we return. Welcome back. In this in-depth report, we focus on the evolution of the Government Housing Loans Board as the organization makes necessary adjustments to better serve the housing needs of public servants. Aaliyah Martin has more.
Chairman of the Government Housing Loans Board, Mr. Felix Thomas, says the institution has seen significant change since its inception in 1956 to 57. Since its launch over 60 years ago, the sole purpose of the Government Housing Loans Board has been to provide mortgage financing to certain categories of public officers. These loans were disbursed at a much lower rate of interest than what obtained at commercial banks. When the Dominica Labour Party assumed office in 2000, a concerted effort was made to transform the role of the Government Housing Loans Board.
Since then, in 2000, that is when the new Labour Party administration came in, we have sort of revolutionized the Government Housing Loans Board to make it more meaningful and give it this sort of dynamism that it needed in order to meet that objective in a meaningful way. Because housing construction is a dynamic thing which deals not only with the construction activity, but also with a major factor which is cost related. And when we speak about affordable housing, it does not mean affordable making what you may call shortcuts. Those houses have to meet the standards, you know, and of course the planning codes have to be observed. The quality of material and the workmanship also have to be part of that entire program.
Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit has been commended for the key role he has played in the expansion of the scope of the Government Housing Loans Board. He has provided the necessary financial support, allowing the institution to play an increasingly important role in government's housing revolution.
In 1956-57, as I said, it was a small thing. But with the advent of the government housing revolution, the Government Housing Loans Board became an integral part of that government housing revolution. And with the many public officers who needed housing, not only certain categories, but all categories of public officers. So we had seen a twist into that to ensure that all public officers who are desirous of building homes for themselves and their families were included. That meant having to expand the budget or the financial capacity of the Government Housing Loans Board. And I must say, with the willingness of the Prime Minister, that we have been able to meet that objective.
Because of the Government Housing Loans Board, over 3,000 public officers now own their own homes. The organization has come a long way from its humble beginnings with an impressive loan portfolio.
To date, we can say that the Government Housing Loans Board have financed over 3,500 homes to public officers with a loan portfolio of over, $500 million. And most of that, as I say, takeoff is from after the 2000 actual elections, when the Labour Party, actually went full gear to increase the housing stock in Dominica.
The finances of the Government Housing Loans Board come mainly from funds borrowed, which are guaranteed by the Government of Dominica. With the backing of the Prime Minister and Minister for Finance, the Dominica Housing Loans Board has been successful in gradually, over time, reducing the interest rates on mortgages, making housing more affordable for public servants.
Even during the time of austerity measures, when public officers felt the brunt of it with over 5% of their salary having to be, reduced, there was this serious cutbacks. They had their loans and something had to be done. Interest rates in Dominica at that point in time was at 15 and 14%. I mean, come to think about it, people would take loans and not even their great-grandchildren, would end up completing the payment for it. The Government Housing Loans Board have to date reduced interest rates from that high percentage rate. While it was maybe 14 and 15 at the other institutions, it was 10.5 at the Government Housing Loans Board when we came in 2000. But with the aided and willingness and support from the Minister of Finance, who is the Minister of the Board, we were able to look at ways and means in reducing that to the present day low of 5.5%. In addition to that, there are certain categories of public officers whose income are much lower, and we were able to have an interest rate of no more than 4% to those in that lower income bracket.
Of the well over 3,500 homes already financed by the Government Housing Loans Board, over 3,000 of those homes have been financed from the 2000 period.
We have been able to raise those monies through loan guarantees from the government of Dominica, and to date we have been very successful in ensuring that our commitments to those financial institutions have been good, 100%. So it is our borrowing, a source of borrowing, while it may reflect on the national debt, but have never really been a cause of concern to the government of Dominica, and our finances have always been in order. And there are certain persons that I want to give a lot of thanks to. Some of them are not alive today, persons like Mr. J.B. Yankee, who was president, I think, at the time of the CDB, Caribbean Development Bank. We collected and had sessions with a lot of those resource persons, Mr. I think Morrow, who was an accountant at that time. I think Mr. Laza is still alive. We had some serious discussions with him, and also persons like Mr. Sylvester, Ambrose Sylvester, who was also a financial secretary. So we tapped persons who could help us guide the Government Housing Loans Board and restructure it, so to speak. Today, it is a giant of a force, and I want to thank and commend and compliment the Prime Minister for his constant, trust and confidence in what the board has been doing thus far. And he has never ever been, hesitant or to think twice as to the request of the board for the need of financing in terms of meeting the demands, housing demands of public servants.
The reduced interest rates on mortgages has not only benefited public officers, but those low rates have also influenced interest rates at other financial institutions.
And today, we have created that sort of domino effect, whereby a lot of the financial institutions now have had to follow the trend taken by the Government Housing Loans Board and reduce interest rates as well. It took a lot of negotiation, a lot of talk, a lot of skill, and I want to compliment the board members we have had over the years. I do not want to mention names that I may leave out anybody, but all of them have contributed, immensely and very, very cooperative in terms of taking sometimes difficult and hard, but the right decisions in ensuring that the fiduciary responsibility of that institution is maintained, and at the same time reach out to the many public officers, maybe where every I could not be dotted, every T could not be crossed, but the sole objective of ensuring that every public officer who is desirous of having a house was able to do so. Wherever we had to meet them, we will meet them, ensuring, as I said, that their own financial capacity was able to meet what they had to do at the time. So we have introduced a lot of programs where we would meet them to a certain stage, and then at a period of time, let them come again, and we would meet them, develop into the type of dream home that they actually wanted.
Unlike the mainstream commercial lending institutions, the mission of the Government Housing Loans Board is not profit-making, and that makes the organization's job challenging, but in the end, worthwhile.
I want to give thanks to a lot. I will not mention the names of the financial institutions that have worked with us. We ourselves has reciprocated when we would have gotten the interest rate that would be conducive, for this sort of low interest granting of loans. We have had to face a lot of those financial institutions. It's not an easy take because, the objective of those financial institutions is to make maximum profit. But we have to look at the overall benefit to the country in terms of housing construction is a major player and economic, how I can term it, essence or nucleus or development nucleus in any country, in any society, because that deals with the construction of homes, which would relate to the employment of persons within the construction industry, which means that your retail hardware stores and businesses that sell the lumber, the building material, like you have a lot of the business places that import housing and building material are able to do so. And at times we have had to refinance the entire capital and finances of the board to the tune of over $35 million to ensure that we could refinance an interest rate that was at 10.5%.
Aliyah Martin for the Government Information Service.
Thank you, Aliyah. Prime Minister the Honorable Roosevelt Skerrit has commended his constituents, describing them as the most sincere, committed and supportive people found anywhere in the world. The Prime Minister was asked about his supporters in Vacaz against the background of his recent recognition by the government and people of Cuba, bestowing upon him the country's most prestigious award, the Order of Jose Marti. Essentially, an award of such magnitude conferred upon the Prime Minister is sure to make his constituents proud.
I have not had a political meeting in that constituency since January 2000. And every election we've had an increase in votes. It speaks to the commitment of the people there. So they have never let me down, and they're always my source of strength and motivation, always. So no matter what happens around the world, when I go to my constituency, I am at peace, and it speaks to the commitment of the people. Very sincere. They don't play games. If they're with you, they're with you. They don't play games with them. And very sincere people. And so this award is really for them in large measure. For them.
The Prime Minister says he has the support of every demographic in the constituency, which his government has transformed. And that's all for the English segment of the news. Up next, the Creole highlights. Premièrement, à la nouvelle créole là, gouvernement Dominica a mis en place pour contrôler prix kérosine, gaz avec diesel. Puis ces billets ça la monté pour la cause la guerre qui a pris place entre Russie avec Ukraine. Gouvernement a fait une contribution à dans un effort pour baisser prix ces produits ça là. Ça c'est juste c'est prix a même baissé. Il a tiré prix taxe custom sur gaz avec diesel immédiatement. Mais contribution que le gouvernement a fait, qui coûte le gouvernement même l'argent. Enfin, le gouvernement qui a perdu l'argent pour baisser prix ces produits ça là pour bénéfice public là. Mais le gouvernement a dit qu'il a fait un commitment pour protéger le peuple là. C'est prix a même qu'à continuer à hausser. Maladie Covid là même, la cause du gouvernement perdit l'argent taxe aussi. C'est l'argent taxe qui a couru pays. Mais pendant Covid là, le gouvernement semblait moins l'argent taxe. Le gouvernement qui a sous peuple Dominique pour faire changement à la manière il a dépenser l'argent, spécialement actuellement tout prix bagaille qui a monté plus haut. Le gouvernement a aussi verti moun qui a opéré voiture pour voir qu'il n'y a pas haussé pour eux sans y avoir permission au département qui est responsable pour ça. Information qu'a sorti au département touriste qui a dit que la saison touriste pour l'année 2021 venait bout plus bonne mois ça c'est mois mai. Pendant saison touriste qui finit, Dominique recevait 250 bateaux touristes. En même temps, Dominique recevait 135 100 passagers. Saison touriste l'année avant, Dominique recevait 149 bateaux touristes avec 192 passagers. Ces touristes-là visitaient diverses spéciales destinations tout au pays pendant la saison touriste-là. Ça, c'est destinations comme Trafalgar Falls, Emerald Pool, Bordelomeo, Tito Gorge, Jardin Botanique au Zoo avec les autres côtés. Pendant la saison touriste-là qui passait, le gouvernement aussi mettait WEG en place pour tout le monde qui a fait business à l'industrie là. Le département de santé organisé pour faire cette équipe, qui est employé dans les affaires touristes, conduit les affaires à une manière pour empêcher la maladie COVID-19. Le département de santé travaille pour faire cette équipe touriste réjouir à une manière qui est bien responsable. Dominique a espéré qu'il y a 211 bateaux touristes qui visitent le pays là pour saison touriste l'année là. Ça veut dire que nous avons espéré 280 000 passagers. Département touriste n'espoir que nous que voir plus de monde visiter les saisons touristes neuf là commencer à le mois octobre. Avec le département qui est responsable pour régler misi qu'on balance avec les affaires poids en pays, ça qui est en anglais Bureau of Standards, qui a éduqué le peuple à ce subiter comme ça. Et c'est pour éduquer mettre magasin aussi mettre boutique Dominique à son importance pour écrire ça qui a dit dans ces produits là yo kavan. Ça c'est aussi nommer ces produits yo ni avec pour faire cette équipe balance yo pas qu'à voler customer yo. Activité ça a commencé lundi le 9 à mois mai à dans Marigot. Officier bureau, ça c'est Standards, Bureau of Standards, il dit mettre magasin en sala bien recevoir le programme éducation sala. Coordinateur programme sala dit Bureau of Standards voulait faire cette équipe, mettre magasin connaître ça yo mérite faire pour conduire business qui l'honnête. Programme sala qui est aussi bénéfice consommateur, ça c'est customer yo. Avec ça c'est tout pour nouvelle en créole pour aujourd'hui. And now for your weather update. Weak unstable conditions are affecting the area. As a result, increased cloudiness together with breezy conditions and some shower activity is expected across the area during the next 24 to 48 hours. Slight to moderate seas are anticipated during the next 24 to 48 hours, with waves peaking to 5 feet. And that's all for this edition of National Focus. Be sure to follow GIS Dominica on Facebook, YouTube, and on Twitter. You can also drop us an email at gis@dominica.gov.dm. From all of us here on the GIS News Production team, I am Julian Morris. Thanks for watching, and remember to stay safe.